It's time for a special episode of Happy Landings with your host, Jay Nowak.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, what I'd like to talk about today is that since 2016, I've taken up a lot of traveling around America. And I'd very much like to congratulate myself for getting on to a point like that because as of now, I can pretty much determine the fact that for all this time, I've actually gone to tons of different states. And I mean lots of them. As far as I know, from the last 4 years, I've gone to such states like Iowa, Illinois, Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, Georgia, and Carolina. And of course, it's all just getting started. Because I've had a lot of other interactions based on all of these travels. Because for the most part, it was all thanks to Luke Nowak, my younger sibling, who has been able to bring us along for the ride. And I feel like that it's just going to continue as a tradition. Both of us will be heading around to more states before we know it. But who knows when, and who knows where. Only time will tell. But let me just tell you a few things about each of these trips. So, of course, one of the first trips that took place was Florida, 2017, and then a trip to Colorado in the same year. About 1 month later, though. But then in 2018, it got even better, with a trip to Ohio, which took us through states like Illinois, Michigan, Indiana, and even Kentucky, as there were a couple points to where we went to Northern Kentucky University. And then eventually, in July of 2018, we managed to take up another trip that went down to Georgia. And that, of course, was a pretty big one right there. That one took a pretty long drive just to get down there, but nonetheless, it was still a pretty fun way of getting to and from. Of course, the big thing that I would like to mention, though, is the fact that around the same exact time that these trips were taking place, Hot Wheels hilarity was just starting to, take up. And during most of these trips was when I started to, put together some episodes, as well as some teasers and the like. Of course, one of which involved me going around on an open field near some abandoned baseball parks, where I had set up some track and I had also set up some Hot Wheels models to go down. And of course, there were actually a few episodes that I had uploaded in summer 2018 that happened to take place in some of these areas. But I guess I might actually try that again, because having HWH on the go was a pretty exciting thing to take on. But who knows? There might be a lot of other things left to come about. But I'll also mention that during those times, those were the first times that I'd ever been to a Regal theater as well as an AMC theater. There were 2 films I ended up watching during those times. The first Purge and Uncle Drew. Of course, there was also a lot of other things that I had also taken up, such as Hot Wheels shopping in places like Target and Walmart, and there was also the chance for me to be able to try out a lot of new restaurants. And there were a lot of them that I managed to, come across. I guess my favorite one out of all of them would be Steak and Shake. And let me tell you. Of course, there were a lot of other things that managed to unfold, because in the summer of 2019 was when we headed back down to Iowa and Cedar Rapids. But around that same year, in February 2019 pretty much, was when we went down to Iowa a different time for a funeral. But, of course, in more recent times, as far back as the end of February 2020, was when we headed down to Carolina. The first time in a while that I had actually gone on a flight. But let me just tell you, it was a multi-phase flight. Because the flight that was ongoing towards Carolina instead took us to Maryland, in Baltimore. And then, of course, we were able to catch a flight from Baltimore to Carolina itself in Raleigh. And then eventually we were able to drive a 2020 Nissan Altima down those highways that would lead us straight towards Greenville, which, of course, is where the Eastern Carolina University would be at. Of course, that trip was a pretty fun experience for me. I've had a lot of stuff to look forward to. And I can tell you right now that in the coming months and the coming years, there's certainly going to be a lot of stuff that I'll look forward to doing. And so, I'm Jay Nowak. This is Happy Landings. This has just been my little review on certain things about trips that I've had across America from the last few years. And I cannot wait to do some more. But until then, take care, everybody.